This is Agriculture Today, and I'm Shelby Varner with the K-State Radio Network. K-State and Washburn law professor Roger McEowen starts today's show discussing the parameters of reselling off-patent seeds and what it takes to do legally. Keeping the show rolling is a partner at Southwest Missouri Hay Auctions, Jordan Garrett, as he talks about the hay market. Also joining us is K-State's Rich Llewelyn as he reminds listeners about the Risk and Profit Conference. Brad White, Todd Gunderson, and Phillip Lancaster from the Beef Cattle Institute in the show explaining managing bulls after breeding season. That and more is coming up ahead on Agriculture Today. You're tuned in to Agriculture Today, and we start our Wednesday show hearing from K-State and Washburn law professor Roger McEowen. Roger, thanks for joining us today.
Good to be with you, Shelby.
Roger, talking from a recent blog article you posted titled Reselling Off-Patent Seeds, and what is an example of an off-patent seed?
Well, about 10 years ago, Shelby, the original version of Roundup Ready seeds, known as Roundup Ready 1, came off patent. And that means they were protected by a general utility patent. You couldn't save them, you couldn't sell them, you couldn't resell them, you couldn't do anything. You had to follow, you had to pay attention to the patent, follow the seed bag instructions, the label instructions, which were pretty tight on that, which prohibited the reselling of those seeds, the saving back and reselling. And of course, Monsanto, now owned by Bayer, was very protective of that. And they would have a legion of lawyers parked in St. Louis at their headquarters that would monitor the usage of these seeds to make sure that farmers were not violating their general utility patent. And so that's what it is.
And when things come off patent, what does that mean for farmers?
Well, it tends to lead farmers to believe that now they have free rein with respect to those seeds, and they can buy those seeds and plant them and save seed back and maybe buy the seed, say, on volume and resell it to farmers without any threat of any type of legal violation. And that it may be surprising to some that that's not exactly the case.
So what is the case for farmers because they don't have free rein?
Well, yeah, and it is the lower cost that's tempting for them to do this because the Generation 1 Roundup Ready seeds are typically cheaper because they're not normally bound by licensing fees. So that can help reduce input costs. But the bottom line on this is that the end of the patent doesn't mean that they're not protected. So there may be contractual arrangements. There may still be some licensing agreements. There may be other types of intellectual property protections, normally by contracts, that farmers that are looking to resell off-patent seed must be aware of. It's not to say that you can't resell off-patent seed. What I'm saying is it's possible once you check a bunch of boxes and make sure that you've cleared all the legal hurdles and are able to do so without the companies coming back at you.
What are a few of those boxes that they would have to check?
Well, one, as I indicated, a lot of these are contractually related. So even though the original patent has expired, that doesn't mean that you've got free rein to resell or distribute that seed, because those traits may still be protected by utility patent on other genetic traits. That's where we get into the stacking of traits. So the patent may have come off one trait, but the companies may have stacked traits on top of each other, and there still may be some utility patents on those stacked traits that you've got to be aware of. So and that's going to depend on the type of seed that you buy, the hybrid version that you bought. Also, there might be contractual restrictions on the seed and trademark restrictions, brand licensing agreements. And in general, as a general rule, now there are exceptions to this, but as a general rule, to sell seed in the United States legally, the seller has to be registered as a seed dealer in most states. And that seed also is going, if you're going to resell it, it's going to have to be labeled with origin and purity and germination percentage and weed percentage. And farmers that are listening know what I'm talking about. You've seen the seed bag, and that's all listed there. And that seed must also be have been tested for germination, usually within the past 6 to 9 months, and be stored properly, meaning it's dry and it's pest-free, in a clean condition. So those are the boxes that have to be checked to be able to legally resell off-patent seed.
So most of the time, farmers can't buy a big bulk purchase and then sell it to their buddies to also plant?
Not unless you go through that rubric and make sure you're clear on all of those points. Yeah, you can do it if you clear all those hurdles.
What are some repercussions if they do potentially resell it and they haven't checked all those boxes?
Well, they could get threat of a lawsuit, maybe a demand letter initially from the original patent holder or the party that has some type of licensing restriction or some type of contractual arrangement over that seed that they think is being violated. They may get a demand letter from a law firm that represents them and say, look, we understand you're reselling the seed and we don't appreciate that. Here are the protections that are still on there. Can you verify that you've gotten clearance? And that's the nice way to go about it. Some firms may just say, you'll be met with a lawsuit right out of the box. Now, the one complicating factor on this is with pollen drift. The question is, when seed comes off patent and you're using it, is there any purity left to it that would allow those protections contractually to still exist? And that's kind of an area that's not really been tested much in the law. And so that may cause some reluctance on the part of the companies to go full bore after protections on this. But as a farmer, you don't want to get any type of correspondence like that. And they'll put a lot of heat on farmers that are reselling seed. And so you just have to be aware that that would happen if you haven't done your due diligence to make sure that you're in the clear.
Is there also an act that was put in 1970 and was modified in 1994 that plays into all of this?
Yeah, that's the Plant Variety Protection Act. And that was, as you said, that was first enacted back in 1970. Now, that was modified in 1994. And that's what grants what we would call copyright-like protection to developers of novel varieties of sexually reproducible plants. We had the Plant Patent Act, which was 40 years earlier. That was in 1930. And then we had the PVPA. Now, the Plant Patent Act gives protection to plant varieties that are sexually reproduced. So you have one that is novel varieties and other varieties that are sexually reproduced. Now, one of the things that happened to that is that originally there was a farmer exemption. This is where some farmers get turned around on this. Under the PVPA, you could save back some seed and resell it to other farmers for planting. Well, that got changed. There was a significant court case that was decided in 1983. There was also another case that came up in the 1990s that took that one away. So you can't save and resell. You can save seed to replant your own fields, but you can't save it to resell to somebody else. So there could still be PVPA protection that's out there, even though the seed is so-called off-patent. That means the general utility patent has expired on that seed. So this is an area that can get complex pretty quickly. And farmers need to be careful of thinking, well, it's off patent, I can sell it. I can buy it and resell it. Not so fast.
What if growers are planning to use a buying pool?
Well, that's a concept that's picked up some interest recently. And this is where you'd have a group of farmers that get together or seed dealers and they form a buying pool to buy off-patent seed. And they collaborate to buy it in bulk quantities and get a lower cost per unit. And they get access to better quality stock or greater distribution efficiency. And then they resell it at a price that's below market price, but yet a little bit above, or at least they break even. Sometimes they'll do this for profit, a little bit above what they bought it for, but yet below market price. And so key point again is that the buying pool has to make sure the seeds were not originally purchased under a restrictive license. So again, we're back to that same issue. There may still be licensing restrictions from contracts that were attached to the original seed. You know, on that, you want to think about, for example, Monsanto's technology use agreement. That's an example of that. And the buying pool would also need to make sure that any saved or resold seed complies with state and federal seed laws. So we're back to germination standards and labeling and certification and all of that. So you've got the same requirements that would come up, plus a couple of additional ones. Buying pools also can raise antitrust and market concentration concerns. So if you've got a coordinated pool The large seed companies might see that as unfair competition or intellectual property infringement, especially if that pool is using the company's proprietary genetics or if it's misrepresenting the seed. In other words, I'm selling it under an authorized brand name. So again, you could face the threat of a lawsuit to shut down your pool.
So what are some other options for people who are wanting to buy seed?
Well, there are places around, such as Kansas State University, that produces public domain seed, and this can be cheaper or open source seed. That might be a model to look to. Look to public domain seed or this open source seed. There are thousands of varieties that are in the public domain that are bred by public universities or open source seed initiatives, and those seeds can be legally grown, saved, and resold. Assuming that the basic laws, again, concerning labeling and germination and testing and so forth are complied with. And you might have another approach would be for a pool to be formed to sell identity preserved grain. That would partner with buyers that want traceable, regenerative, or region specific grain, or you form a grain buying pool, not a seed buying pool, but a grain buying pool. Another one is, we could select open pollinated lines, and then over time and space, we breed our own particular technology that's tied to cold tolerance or drought resistance, whatever it might be. Then once that line is developed, then I could sell that seed as a new locally adapted variety and get a PVPA certificate for that, or form a co-op. So there are options that are out there. All of them have legal implications to it, but just simply buying and reselling off-patent seed comes with some peril. You got to be careful.
Roger, I appreciate you taking the time to join us today.
Thank you, Shelby. My pleasure.
That was K-State and Washburn law professor Roger McEowen. I will link his blog article, Reselling Off-Patent Seeds, in today's show notes on agtoday.net. We're cutting to a short break now, but we'll be right back. You're tuned back into Agriculture Today, and we continue our show talking about the hay market with a partner at Southwest Missouri Hay Auctions, Jordan Garrett. Jordan, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Jordan, as we're talking about the hay market, first wanting to start with, what is Southwest Missouri Hay Auctions and when did it get started?
We started the auction about 2 years ago. We was in a severe drought in Southwest Missouri. Dad and I, Bill Garrett, his phone and my phone was ringing off the wall trying to find hay and locate hay, and it was getting to be a struggle to where we couldn't even buy the hay to keep up with the demand we had. We partnered up with Smith Midwest in August of 23, and we formed Southwest Missouri Hay Auctions. We have the sale first Saturday of every month starting at 10 a.m. Most sales is done by noon, and it has took off ever since we started.
And what did the hay look like when you first started?
We had a lot of higher quality hay when we first started. Anytime you're dealing with drought-stricken areas, weather doesn't play the bigger factor other than tonnage. So you get a lot more higher quality hay when you're in a drier year than what you would typically see, as for example, this year. So we had a lot of more higher quality hay, alfalfa, orchard grass, brome, timothy mix. I mean, we sell various types and bale sizes and shapes, and we keep on going.
What are some commonalities you see for who's buying those different types of bales, those different types of hay?
The beef cow guys are really sticking towards the round bales this year. They've all got Dewey's beds. They're focused on just ease and simplicity, getting a quality product out to their cows. The dairies are still seeming more towards on the big squares because they can use a TMR mixer and ration the bale size out easier. We have a strong horse market there in Southwest Missouri. They're leaning towards the little squares in bundles.
For the big round bales, do people care what size they are?
We're seeing in Southwest Missouri that weight does play a factor. They don't really necessarily like the 4x5 bales weighing under 800 pounds just because it takes longer for them to feed the cows. The horse guys are not liking the 5x6 bales weighing over 1,500 pounds because they don't have a tractor big enough to handle the hydraulic capacity that the bale size needs. So we're seeing that 5x5 and a 4x5 in that 1,000 to 1,200 pound range being ideal.
What are some consistencies that are really important for having a bale that people even just want to buy and look at buying?
Net wrap, leaf retention, and color.
As a person who also has a hay business besides the auction, what are some really important things you have for being successful in those aspects?
Honesty and owning up to the quality of your own hay.
Do you guys recommend or do hay tests as well?
We recommend the hay test. We're seeing at the sale that we can see upwards towards $40 a ton increase on likewise hay, just one lot being tested and one lot not. People in Missouri are wanting to know what they're buying.
And as you're in Missouri, are you only getting hay from Missouri?
No, we've sold hay successfully from 15 different states. A lot of hay producers, central Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, they're using freight trucks coming back through and bringing hay down to us. And it's working pretty good for a lot of people in other states as well.
How have you seen the quality or type of hay vary from states?
This year we're seeing the wetness on the ground making it difficult to bale quality hay. So we're seeing people, try to bale it at, a few hours sooner than they should have. So we're seeing a little bit of tobacco-style hay, maybe a little bit of mold coming in it. And we're seeing a lot of discoloration from the humidity that we're getting this year.
What did you see prices being when you first started this auction 2 years ago?
Alfalfa hay, if it was supreme, was $400 a ton. Beef cow alfalfa was $250 to $300 a ton. Grass hay was anywhere from $180 to $250 a ton. Now we're seeing that grass hay market dip down under $100 a ton for cow hay. Beef cow hay's $150 to $200 a ton, and the dairy hay's under $300 this year.
Have you seen a decrease of who's coming to your auction or how much hay is coming to your auction as we've seen an increase in supply?
We have seen a huge increase from a year ago. Our August sale in 24 ranged about 1,700 bales total between little squares, big squares, and round bales to 5,600 bales last Saturday.
Are there more people coming to buy or just more people selling?
The crowd's staying about the same size. We introduced 20 new consigners at our last sale, so the sale is growing as far as customer-wise going on sellers.
For someone who's been in the hay business for a little while, whether baling your own hay or here at the auction, what is your prediction, your glass ball, your magic ball looking forward?
I think quality hay is still going to have a key price whenever it comes to selling hay. If you've got the test to back it, I think we're not going to see 2024's prices, but we're going to maintain a marginal increase in price over the next few months.
Do you see a difference if people take the time to do some advertising as well?
As far as our sale, if I advertise the lots that we have coming in, I will get definitely more phone calls coming in on what we got.
If people have hay but aren't looking to go to a hay auction, what's your recommendation for them to get hay off their operation?
Facebook Marketplace is a pretty good key source to be able to get hay out there into your community around. Phone calls to some feed yards, grinding lots, just see if that makes it work.
Jordan, I appreciate you taking the time to join us today.
All right, thank you very much.
That was partner at Southwest Missouri Hay Auctions, Jordan Garrett, as he discussed the hay market. Before we cut to a break, we're now going to be joined by K-State Extension Assistant Rich Llewelyn as he reminds us about the upcoming Risk and Profit Conference. And Rich, what's on the schedule for this year?
Well, we have quite a bit going on. We have 24 breakout sessions to go along with 3 general sessions on that. And so this is kind of our centerpiece conference for our teaching and research faculty who have the opportunity to present some of their research. It's also our extension faculty with some of the things they're doing throughout the year. But our keynote speaker on Thursday will be Roger McEowen. He's the former chief economist for the American Farm Bureau Federation, and so he'll be here just discussing some of the things going on in the markets, both livestock and crops, and then some policy things that he's been involved with.
Who are the other 2 general sessions?
We have the market outlook on Friday morning, and that will be both grains and livestock. Dan O'Brien, our grain marketing specialist, will do the grains, and then Brian Coffey will be handling the livestock and cattle market outlook. And the last one there, right before lunch on Friday, will be the Kansas producer. We've had this segment for about 15 years now. And so this year we have a featured producer from Emporia, Kansas. It's Kevin Carr and his wife, Sandy. They have some unique things they've been doing with hogs as well as cover crops and no-till. So their diverse cropping and hay operation has kind of become the centerpiece of their farm. And they've also had some transition going on with one of their sons moving back to take part in the operation. So just looking at some of the things they've been doing and are doing looking ahead.
What are a few of the different breakout sessions?
We have 24 this year, which is a little more than normal, and we also have 8 sessions during the conference for people to attend, so they'll be able to attend a few more than what they have in the past. I'd break it down into 3 primary areas. We have policy things going on with a general ag policy update, as well as macroeconomic implications for agriculture. Brian Brigham is a professor who used to work at the Federal Reserve in Kansas City, and he'll be part of that. We also have the grains and livestock markets. This is focused a little more on the grain side of things. We'll also have quite a bit with the livestock markets as well. And then some of the things going on with some of the tariffs and trade and the regulations, as well as an update on income tax issues, particularly those that were addressed in the recent legislation.
During the sessions, is there usually some time for some questions and answers?
Yeah, we have it set so that the main sessions will be about an hour each, but we'll have time about 15 minutes or more for questions on that. And then each of the breakout sessions is 50 minutes, and we encourage the speakers to take about 35 minutes, no more than 40, so that we do have some time for people to interact and engage. We also have some time outside of the sessions where folks can go ahead and find some of the speakers and talk to them directly. And we'll have a social in the evening that'll allow quite a bit of that on Thursday evening.
When is Risk and Profit taking place?
It's August 21st and 22nd. That's a Thursday and Friday, so it's before classes start at K-State.
What is registration and how can it be done?
The registration is online, or you can get the brochure from agmanager.info and send in a check. And we'll take registrations right up until the time of the conference. We've been able to lower the price just a little bit from what it was in previous years. So it's $215 for both days, or $175 for either day, Thursday or Friday. And so that's nice to be able to make it a little more affordable than it had been. We also have a hotel block at the Holiday Inn across the street if folks need to stay overnight.
Are those registration fees an early bird price?
That is, it will go up $25 after August 15th, but that's up to pretty close before the conference. So it will go up just a couple days before the conference, but we'd love to have folks join us, and hopefully they'll be able to get in before that price goes up.
And just something we want to mention as Risk and Profit is on campus, what does parking look like?
For the parking, we have some spots at the Alumni Center, and you can park there with no permits or anything. And then if you need to park over in the parking garage east of the Alumni Center or in the lot west of the old stadium north of the church, we have permits we've obtained for that. And so you'll need to just take a picture of your license plate or write it down, bring it in to us, and we'll take care of it from there.
That was K-State Extension Assistant Rich Llewelyn. I will put a link to the Risk and Profit Conference in today's show notes on agtoday.net. We're cutting to a short break now, but we'll be right back.
You're tuned in to Agriculture Today. I'm Madeline Drake, in for Shelby Varner, and we continue our show with K-State's Brad White, Todd Gunderson, and Phillip Lancaster on the Beef Cattle Institute's Cattle Chat podcast.
I've got a spring and fall calving herd. We're at the end of summer. I'm going to take my bull out of the spring calving herd. And now we got to do a turnaround because he's going to have to go to work again in the fall in 2 to 3 months. What are some of the considerations that I need to think about? And I'm going to ask you about the fertility and health standpoint. And specifically, does he need a period of sexual rest, or can I turn it right around and put him in the fall herd? What are your thoughts?
The short answer is he needs some rest, and probably needs at least a couple of months of rest. A bull may lose anywhere from 100 to 200 pounds of body condition during a breeding season. They go out there and they work hard. And especially if that bull is expected to breed a larger proportion of the females or a larger number of females, he's going to need some time to recover body condition. He's going to need some time to recover on a spermatogenesis standpoint. We know that spermatogenesis typically takes from the very beginning of that process to the very end about 60 days. And if we assume that a bull loses, 100 pounds during a breeding season, it's going to take him at least 2 months, maybe a little longer to recover that body condition. So You can't just take him right out of one breeding pasture and put him in another and expect him to perform the same way.
So if I had a breeding soundness exam performed on him in March, he went through a whole breeding season, and it appears things were successful. I haven't noticed any problems. Do I need to redo that breeding soundness exam before he goes into the fall season?
It may not be a bad idea. The thing you got to keep in mind about a breeding soundness exam is that it's a snapshot in time of what's going on with that bull from a fertility standpoint. Now, even though it's a snapshot in time, it still tells us something about future performance. If it didn't, there'd be no point in doing the test. But if I look at a bull in March and get a certain profile of his semen, of his sperm structure and motility, it's likely going to be different at the end of the summer after he's been out breeding cows. And occasionally you will see certain types of sperm defects develop between those 2 points in time, and so much so that it might actually be enough to have that bull be less fertile going into the next breeding season. So I think if you're going to use him for 2 different breeding seasons, you should probably check in and see where he's at before you turn him out with that second group of cows.
Yeah, I think that makes sense because lots of stuff has happened between then and now. And you mentioned that those bulls will lose some weight. Phillip, what are you thinking when I've got this turnaround for the bull 2 to 3 months? Is there anything specific I should be thinking from a nutrition standpoint?
Like Todd said, I need to get him back in body condition. We typically think we want bulls in a body condition score of 6 or so when we turn them out to breeding season. And so I need to get him back up there. And so it depends on my forage situation, I think, what I need to do. If I'm in a area where my forage resource is a warm season forage, or especially like native prairie, and the quality of that through late summer and fall is declining, then I need to definitely think about supplement. Probably need some protein supplement. I probably need some energy supplement to get him to gain weight. If I'm in a part of the country where we've got cool season grass, especially like fescue, that's going to have a good regrowth in the fall, and it's going to be high quality regrowth, I might not need much supplement. I may need a little bit toward the end of the fall, as we're getting into November or so through September and October. He's probably going to be able to gain a couple pounds a day on a good quality regrowth of fescue, as long as the quantity is there.
Yeah, and one of the things I'm hearing from what you're describing is I really need to plan it out, and situationally I may need to modify based on what's available, because I can't just monitor body condition score because it lags behind. So I need to proactively say, do I need to supplement? Do I not need to supplement? But he doesn't necessarily need to go in a dry lot and be on full feed.
No. I'd have him on good pasture, and then I'd figure out what I need from a supplement standpoint, based on his body condition score and his estimated weight. Well, what do I need to get him to gain?
Once again, that was part of the Beef Cattle Institute's Cattle Chat podcast with Phillip Lancaster, Brad White, and Todd Gunderson. That's all we have for you today on Agriculture Today, but we'll be back with more for you tomorrow.